Oh, I've been waiting to make this video for such a long time, and now the time has finally come for me to express my deep feelings about these languages. I have mixed feelings about. Well, let's get right into it. Number one, it's TypeScript. But before I tell you more about TypeScript, a quick disclaimer that these all are my personal opinion and they're actually in no particular order. These are not really the languages I hate the most, as I said in my previous video, but actually languages I have mixed feelings about. There are languages I absolutely consider useful and absolutely have something about them that makes me want to use them, but at the same time there's just something I absolutely hate about the languages. Something just doesn't work, something that just does not click about the languages. You get the point? Let's get into it with TypeScript. Why do I hate TypeScript? For those of you who don't know, TypeScript is basically an add-on for JavaScript, which all it does is it gives JavaScript types. JavaScript is a typeless language, which means variables, you don't need to give variables a type for them to work. A variable can be anything, it can be a string, can be an object, can be an int, a number. And I absolutely understand that can be a hard thing to work with in an environment with a larger team. When you need to coordinate, you need to use someone else's API. But when you're working on a project by yourself, I think that kind of defies the whole purpose of JavaScript, isn't it? Like, the JavaScript does not have types, every object is a map, etc, etc. And that's why I don't like it. I dig the idea, but I just cannot use it. I absolutely cannot use it. One thing I love about JavaScript is that it does not have types, which makes everything so much easier to work with. Everything is so smooth. JavaScript development is fast, it's super fast, and one of the reasons it's super fast is because it does not have types. And my number two language on this list is Haskell. I find it strange that not so many real actual, not that Haskell is not a real programming language, but imperative or object-oriented languages don't use the Haskell /Lisp/Bash kind of syntax in which you don't actually call a function by like f parenthesis x. You call it by just fx, and that's how you call a function in Haskell. And I find this super awesome, like it's super nice. Sometimes you can just write code and not have any parentheses in it. And the really cool feature of Haskell and purely functional programming languages is you can declare a function inside an expression, which I really, man, I really wish this was a thing in the more programming languages, because so often I like to work with expressions and I would like to declare a small variable inside so as to not reuse the same, like not call the same function twice. But the reason I don't like Haskell is just I don't see any real applications for it. I understand the objective of functional languages like pure functions and safety, stuff like that, but I just cannot, I personally cannot wrap my head around a purely functional language like Haskell. Also, data types in Haskell, I'm sorry, they're just weird. How do you work with them? Not gonna lie, it does have quite a lot of cool features, Haskell. Parameter destructuring, what else? Monads. My number three language on this list is one of the most widely used languages in the world, and it's Java. Let me tell you a bit of a backstory about Java. Java was my first programming language that I learned. Well, I first learned the basics of C++, but I'm not sure it really stuck with me. And then I went through a course of Java, and that completely opened my mind to the world of programming, and that's why I'm really grateful for Java. But come on, let's be real, it's too verbose. It's an old language, not as old as C++, not as old as other languages, but it's old. I think that's one of the core problems I have with the Java, is that it tries to be this really cool, friendly, simple language. And it is, don't get me wrong, it's just, it feels a bit outdated sometimes. I used to work with Java on a project, on an older project I had. I also learned Java in university. And while development isn't that hard per se, sometimes it can feel awkward. Unfortunately, I cannot pinpoint exactly what this unfortunate reason behind me disliking Java is. I guess me also discovering Kotlin is a reason for me disliking Java. Now, sometimes I like to compare Java to the French language, like it flows so beautifully, it sounds so nice, but if you get into the grammar, you actually realize there are some inconsistencies. For example, int versus integer. It makes sense, but it's kind of weird, and they cannot change it because it's already an old language. They need backwards compatibility. Let me check how much time I've got on the camera. And there are many languages which suffer from this. Fortunately, Python did not do this. Python does not suffer from backwards compatibility because Python 3 is very different. Well, not very different, but Python 3 is quite different from Python 2. They're not backwards compatible, and support recently dropped for Python 2, if I'm not mistaken, so yay, Python 3. My number 4 language on the list is C++. I really don't know what to say about this language. Like, it's quite obvious why I don't like it. There's a lot of syntax. It has lots of keywords, but I kind of dig the way memory management works. Unfortunately, I've not worked with other very low languages like Rust. I've heard Rust is quite nice though. So I can't really compare C++ to Rust. But I'm pretty sure C++ could be an even better language if it just were too verbose, if it weren't so syntax-y. You can do a lot of stuff with C++, which I like. It's quite an ugly language, and one of the hacks I like to use when I work with C++ is macros, but I'm sure so many people dislike macros. Maybe I'll make a video on macros in the future and why I like them so much, but the basic reason is that it simplifies syntax. That's what you can do with macros. It makes your own language kind of, but absolutely, if you're working in a team, yeah, avoid macros, but if you're working on yourself, hey, I think I'd say just go for it. Whatever floats your boat. Okay, number 5. Here's the weird thing about R. The language is R. If you've never heard about R, it's a statistics language. It's a weird thing. I've been noticing it's being replaced by Python, NumPy and whatever, pandas, whatever people still use for data analysis today in Python. But I learned R in university and I quite liked its aptitudes. I quite liked what R can do, and surprisingly it can do a lot more than people usually know. I built an HTML game with R. You can render documents, you can have live statistics on documents, which is pretty damn neat. Also, I have tried doing some machine learning with Python, and to be honest, I did not like it as much as R. It makes arrays by default from numbers. Anything in R is actually an array, a list, which does make some operations easier to do, and once you understand this core concept of R, it actually feels pretty nice to work with, not gonna lie. But there's just some weird ass stuff going on in R, like the arrow operator, how it's different from the equal. Honestly, I never got this, I never understood this. There's also some weird scoping things, like you cannot really declare. Hey, if you're familiar with R, please do better than me and explain this down in the comment section. But there's something weird with scopes in R. You have to declare variables with arrow instead of equals, because if you do with equals, they're not gonna be visible down a scope or something. I'm not quite sure. I encountered this problem with R along the way while working with R, and it was really frustrating because I couldn't figure out what the problem was. Also, the $sign instead of dot and the dot instead of underscore, that's kind of weird. This is not that bad, really, it's not that bad. I've also used RStudio, which was pretty bad, honestly. It's a pretty bad editor, but it does its job, so yeah. R, I guess. Before I get to the number 6 language on this list, please definitely do let me know in the comment section what your weird ass language is. What's a language you both love and hate, or you like some things about and you hate some things about? And if you got this far, please do like and subscribe if you're enjoying my videos. Also, make sure you follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Okay, my number 6 language. This is gonna be super controversial because I know this is the favorite language of many people, and especially game developers in Unity, and you know it was coming, and it is C#. I said it, yeah. I said it, I don't like C#. Look, it's a language with lots of syntax sugar, right? That's not the problem. I think it's trying its best to get modern with the syntax, right? It has the not null operator. You can chain null chaining. It has getters, setters, partial classes, I think they're called. It has so many features which are actually pretty damn nice. Lately it's also been functional, but oh boy, like geez, some of the things about C#, they just trigger some PTSD. Especially, I've noticed everything that has to do with strictly .NET interaction. I've worked on a project in university in C#. I built a web application. I used everything like the backend, front end, and a database. And man, it's a pain. It was really painful. It was one of the most painful things I've ever done. And I've used Java to create UIs. And trust me, it's not as bad as C#. Everything about developing a web application in C# just felt wrong. Data binding, annotations. Also, yeah, let me make a clear point about annotations. I hate annotations because they add syntax. Annotations are kind of macros, I don't know, but they're kind of different because annotations, it's so not clear what they do a lot of times. Let me also say that I don't like C# because it's overly syntaxy, right? It has lots of parentheses, lots of brackets. One interesting thing about C# is I don't really blame the language as much as I blame it being old. It does suffer from one of those languages that needs backwards compatibility. I don't really understand how developers still argue about semicolons because, come on, you do not use semicolons in this way. It's 2020, come on. Yeah, to be honest, I would really like to understand. I want to like C#, but I don't. So please do let me know in the comment section. Please, come on, help me out. Help me like C#. Help me see the good in it, and help me not see the bad in it. If you got this far in the video, you're either one of my friends or you're some person who really liked the video and really wanted to know my opinion on. So I would kindly ask you to please like the video. It doesn't take anything and it really helps me as a really small YouTube channel that I want to grow. Also, if you enjoy my content and want to support me, please do subscribe. I know I already said these things, but I'm gonna say it again, I guess. Yeah, please do comment whatever you want to say, whatever thoughts you've got, how your day has been. Let me know in the comment section because I really want to talk. Like, look at me. I'm a dude talking in front of a camera because I cannot get my thoughts out properly enough in the real world. So I want to talk. And if you really want to talk to me, you can absolutely find me on Facebook and on Twitter if you want to follow me and follow my posts. Other than that, my name is Dave Doubly. And this has been my video on the most hated 6 languages in the entire world of my mind. And I cannot but wish you a nice development journey and a really good 1st of December, because it's free for us Romanians. It's a national day. See ya.